So a sustainable approach to helping junior developers grow. Right. Go. So yeah, Bio for short, right? Proudly a husband of one. Engineering manager at Yoko. Right. Most of my background is in engineering and backend development. So, and I did like quite some amount of work in fintech space. So a lot of things like integrations with banks, switches, payment processors, all of that stuff. I built a few myself, and yeah. And then I'm passionate about building highly effective and happy engineering teams because I'm an engineering manager now, and this is actually why I'm an engineering manager now, because I'm passionate about building highly effective and happy engineering teams. So let's get to it. We can't address these subjects without talking about hiring junior engineers, right? So, and one thing I would say is every time I talk to someone and I'm like, okay, so why are you not hiring junior engineers or challenge with junior engineers? You hear a lot of reasons, but one consistent reason is I don't want to lose speed on my team. You know, we want to deploy fast. We are a fast-paced company. If you bring junior now, we'll use 6 years to develop one API. You know. And that's the drawback for many people. So I like to say that hiring junior engineers is an investment, both in your team and in the engineers themselves. And I use the word investment intentionally, right? Because when you invest money, there's some period where you wait for the results, right? But then you get the benefit at the end. It's not a loan that you just take a loan and then you have to pay back later. It's an investment. You know, I put some money down today, and sometime down the future, I'm going to get 11% or 15% what I put down today, right? So one thing you can be sure of is that you will reap the rewards sometime down the line. And how far down the line is the question, right? Many people think it's very far out. I don't. And I think throughout this talk, we're telling you why I don't think it's usually that far out. Let's address the reduction in velocity. You know, my team is going to move slower because we hire junior engineers. Now we're going to do small math. I hope you guys do math, right? So, but I'm going to assume that. So let's say you have a senior engineer, and the output of that engineer every day is 100 over 100, meaning full capacity is focused on doing his work 100. Now, then like n number of people, what you have as his productivity drops to 100 minus 25n. So if you say 2 people, or if he's training 1 person, for example, productivity like 75. If he's training 2 people, it'll be how many? I don't know math. 50, right? So it keeps going like that. So because if you put 2 there, that's 100 minus 50, that's 50 now. If it's 3 people, it becomes what, 25? Then you add a 4th person, you're not going to get anything out of that engineer. Right, correct. Now the productivity of your new engineer, so we're not even talking about junior or senior, just as an engineer normally, right, is about, let's say, 33% of what they would normally be able to do in their capacity, right? And these numbers are fairly close to what you, and let me tell you how it goes. I mean, because on the average, you're going to spend 2 hours a day out of your 8-hour day, right, trying to onboard someone. That's like 25% of your work time. You get, so that's why the formula is there. If you don't still understand the formula, I will give you math. But yeah, now, so of course, that will give you a total team productivity. Let's put numbers in there real quick. You have a senior engineer who's training 2 people, 2 people. His productivity is 50, right? Now, the productivity of your new engineers is like 100 times 3 over 50. That's somewhere like 50 times 0.3. That's like 50, 0.3, 15. About like 15. Basically, on the average, you're going to get total capacity of like 1 engineer, and you get the total capacity of like 1.something engineers instead of getting like the capacity of 2 people. Now, if these people were junior, it would even fall lower. Right? So the excuse is actually legit. Your team can move slower if you onboard new like junior engineers on your team. It's a legit concern, right? I manage teams and I know, so it's not just an excuse. But I mean, there's a way out of it, and the way out of it is on this next slide. So there are 4 stages every team goes through, right? And we'll just talk through each stage. The first stage is what you call falling behind, where the team is doing work, but it's like the work is not reducing. So is that we are actually really good at completing stuff, but our backlog is getting larger, right? That's the first step. Now, it would be a terrible mistake, a very terrible mistake, to hire junior engineers at this point. you're just going, everybody is frustrated, right? Nobody's going to have time. The junior engineer is not going to catch up on time. Everything's just going to be wrong. The next stage is called treading water. Treading water is where you are getting work done. So your critical work is getting done, right? But you guys don't have space to pay back technical debt. So, I hope you are familiar with technical debt. Yeah, good. So you're getting work done, we are pushing code and stuff, but there's not like enough time to actually clear out technical debt. The third stage is where I call repaying debt. So here you're repaying debt to, doing small, but you are still challenged with, having to do more forward-thinking work, right? So here you're just sort of like floating, and here you are getting stuff done. You are starting to get the reward of paying debt, but you're not quite there yet. Now, this first stage is called innovating. Innovating is where is everybody's utopia. That's where it is. We are doing forward-thinking stuff. Technical debt is reduced as much as possible, and we all just go. Now, I think junior engineers can come into any team as long as they're not in that first stage, that falling behind stage, right? Now, the challenge is many startups think that they are in that stage, and it's not true. Like, it's so not true. A lot of the time, you're not there. And I'll explain to you. You're a startup, you have listed your product manager has come and said, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, right, to do. Your work is scoped out already. You know the volume of things to do. It is quite rare that as you are finishing one feature, for example, they are not telling you that, there's another pay stack. My point is, if you're in that stage, what you have is not an engineering problem, it's a structural problem. Right? And nobody's going to, a senior engineer is not going to fix that stage. A senior engineer is not going to fix it for you. You can hire more so that you can get more done, but hiring senior engineers will not actually fix that for you. So if you're not in that phase, right, if you're in any of these phases, I particularly like the treading water phase because that's where most people are, right? You're getting critical work done, but there's also work that needs to be done that you can't exactly accomplish. For example, as part of your flow, you send push notifications to your users, right? And you probably need to isolate that into like its own sort of service, right? That's an opportunity for junior engineers to come in. That's important work, right? But maybe this writing the complex SQL queries and time. That's a good place to bring in junior engineers. If you're there also, perfect. Junior engineers are perfect, right? They can help you repay, like when you're repaying your technical debt. So stuff like you don't have tests on your code base, you don't have enough coverage, stuff like that. Now, one thing you have to do is you have to set them up for success. And there are 5 things I have here. Number 1 is to prepare. So you have to prepare for them, meaning document as much as you can. Of course, you can't document all the things, right? But whatever you think is important for them to know should be documented. Second thing, everybody is crying that they need senior engineers, eh? Okay. So you have to hire them, right? But it's high risk, but it's high reward. The third thing is to get them to make impactful contributions. Right? And like I say here, they aren't stupid, they're only inexperienced. Right? So help them and then also coach them, guide their learning, encourage them. And then fifth, constantly give them constructive feedback. Right? If you have at least one person on the team who's responsible for this, right, I can assure you that what will happen is you hire just one junior engineer, right? Just one. Right? And you have these in place. And you probably understand your team stage. From what I've seen, like across my experience, in about 3 months, they'll be able to handle one feature by themselves. And again, junior engineers aren't stupid, right? They're only inexperienced. Just hire them, and they'll be with you longer. They would help you build your team, and eventually you realize that it was actually a worthy investment, and it's not a charity project. It's an investment in your company and your own speed, and that's where I talk. Thank you very much.